welcome to News 9. And well, the big story that we're tracking this hour, 6-year-old Timmanna is still stuck inside 300-foot deep borewell, and the latest coming in from the Chief Minister himself. 6-year-old Timmanna is alive is what Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has gone on to state, although reports have very clearly indicated as to how Timmanna has not responded since morning, and it has been close to a day since he's stuck in the deep, dark and cold borewell. The Chief Minister has gone on to assert that 6-year-old Timmanna is alive. Whether this was done based on the reports that he has been receiving is something that we do not know, but the Chief Minister made it very clear that the 6-year-old victim is still alive and that there is still time to rescue him and to save him, something that the officials have been doing since yesterday. Rescue operations are on in a brisk pace, but because of the numerous hurdles that they are encountering, time and again the rescue operations are being stalled. But now the Chief Minister asserting that the 6-year-old is awake and that there is still time to save him. Meanwhile, the rescue operations as far as involving the robot is concerned have been stalled as of now. But the rescue operations involving the NDRF are in progress. Well, my colleague Harish joins us with all the latest details live from Bagalkote. Well, Harish, even as reports are stating that there is no movement from the 6-year-old child, there is no sign of any movement. Well, we'll try and get my colleague back on the line. But in fact, there we have it, the Chief Minister going on to assert that the boy is alive, and this comes in the backdrop of fears that maybe he is finding it very, very difficult to sustain himself because it is close to a day since he has been hydrated. He is being provided with oxygen, but he is at a depth of 160 feet, which is no joke, and there is a possibility of him sinking further. There is also the threat of constant debris falling on top of him because of people moving in and around this particular borewell. And even as all these fears and doubts have been coming up, the Chief Minister has gone on to state that the boy is alive. Well, this is the borewell. Well, in fact, this is Timmanna, the little boy that you see in your television screens, 6-year-old Timmanna, who has fallen into the borewell on his family's property. He's just all of 6 years old and has been struggling to battle death since yesterday at the Sulukeri village in Bagalkote. And the region where the accident took place is also fairly remote. There is no access road for any of the JCBs, and it took quite a bit of time for help to actually arrive. A couple of hours after the incident took place, oxygen was being provided to the little one, but since it is close to a day since the incident took place, it has been over a day, in fact, since the incident took place. There needs to be more done to help sustain Timmanna. He will be rapidly getting dehydrated. There is the sense of fear and trauma as well. And a lot of debris is possibly falling on him. Well, earlier today there was a two-pronged approach that was being utilized by the officials, while on one hand Manjay Gowda from Mandya had been called in to use his robot to be lowered down the borewell and to grasp the child, to clamp the arms of the robot around the child and pull him up. But the robot has failed, as the borewell is extremely deep and is getting progressively narrow for the robot to actually proceed any further. And after much hurdles, the robot has been aborted. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the NDRF is continuing with its traditional approach of digging a parallel tunnel and then digging a horizontal tunnel to reach the little one. But that could take at least 2 more days, 2 or more days in fact. And after digging almost 170 feet, they will have to go horizontal and reach the child. Will 6-year-old Timmana be able to sustain himself until then? Well, the officials are sure hoping, so is his family and so is the entire state. Six-year-old Timmana was along with his uncle and relative when he was playing in his field, and he accidentally fell into this open bore well. The open bore well, which had been dug up almost 15 to 20 days ago, had been kept open by his family, presumably to put in casing as well and dig further, as they had not been able to find water at that depth. It is currently 300 feet deep. Also, according to what my colleague Harish went on to point out, to avoid Timmana slipping any further, they have tied a knot around his hand, his only body part that is visible at the moment. They have tied a knot around it and they have fastened his hand to ensure that he does not slip any further. If initial help had arrived, Timmana could probably have been saved almost immediately, as he was at a depth of 10 feet and then he slipped to 60 and then to 130 and now he's at 160 feet. It is said that he was at around 10 to 12 feet depth because Timmana's cries could be heard right outside. His cries for his mother could be heard, and this is the development as far as the digging is concerned. Well, the digging is extremely quick if we do compare it to what had happened in Bijapur for 4-year-old Akshata. But that's because the terrain is such, it's not very rocky, but after 100 feet they might encounter the rocky surface. And numerous curious onlookers have also gathered in and around the area, which is proving to be another hurdle for the rescue officials there, as these curious onlookers could do more damage than good to the entire rescue operation. They could lead to more vibrations in the bore well, which is already very sensitive, and it can lead to more debris collapsing on the little child. 6-year-old Timmana is currently battling for life inside this bore well, and what is being told at this point in time is that the Chief Minister has asserted that he is alive, while the reports have clearly stated that he has not been responding. Meanwhile, the Gram Panchayat Minister has asked the Gram Panchayats across the state to ensure that they follow the strict guidelines that they have put in place. The department has asked for the covering up of almost 3,400 dry bore wells across the rural areas of the state. My colleague Arun joins us with more details on this. Well, Arun, these measures are the need of the hour. What more can you tell us about them?
That's right, Nishchita, but the most important thing is how this gets implemented, because remember, the crucial point is implementation. We've had several instances in the past where young children have fallen into these disused borewells, and the number is quite staggering, 3,400 of them. In fact, now the latest guidelines which have been issued places the onus or responsibility on Taluk and Gram Panchayat officials, and they have to first have been mandated to take an inventory of how many borewells each Gram or Taluk Panchayat limit has. Besides that, they have to take an inventory of how many of these are actually government-owned borewells or private borewells, and how many of these are actually in a disused condition. So the ones which are disused will have to be forthwith immediately closed. to prevent any further such incidents from happening, like what happened to young Timmanna. Now, the focus as far as the private borewells is concerned is on the owner of the farmland where the borewell is located. He will be held responsible if the disused borewell is not closed. In fact, the guidelines are pretty much more stricter in the sense that if the owner of the farmland fails to close the borewell, then not only the owner will be hauled over coals, but even the company or the contractor who was hired to dig the borewell will have to face the wrath of the state and the machinery. So clearly the idea is to ensure that as far as borewells are concerned, the ones which are disused are immediately closed. But the most important point is that there is an urgent need for water. See, in this particular case, for instance, the one in Bagalkot, the land is a privately owned land, and it had been dug up about 15 days ago, but it went into disuse because there was no water available. After which the owner of the land, that is Timmanna's father, should have technically closed the borewell, but he left it open, probably in the hope that if it rains, it may collect some water. But now with this strict guidelines in place, it remains to be seen how it will impact water availability and that too for irrigation purposes, Mr. Tar.
Right, absolutely. But also there needs to be a holistic approach to this. There is a reason why these borewells are being indiscriminately dug up. Many of the borewells that the officials don't even know are being dug up, and that the government really needs to know at this point in time, Arun, that they need to do more than just put these guidelines in place. There should be implementation and there should be constant vigil as well.
That is right. In fact, if you are a private landowner, plan to dig a borewell, the new guidelines also specify, as you rightly put it, a kind of an NOC to be obtained from a taluk or gram panchayat office, which will permit you to go ahead with the digging of the borewell. Otherwise, this borewell would be considered as an illegal borewell. And heaven forbid if there is water in that, then technically the gram panchayat or taluk panchayat will be in a position to take severe action, because it will be construed as a case of illegal digging of a borewell where the required sanction or mandatory sanction was not obtained, Mr. Shah.
Right, absolutely, Arun. Well, thank you for joining us with all those details. Well, there we have it. These are the rules and regulations that have been put in place. Panchayats have been asked to keep an inventory of the number of borewells that comes under their purview. 3,400 registered dry borewells in the state need to be closed up, but the government also needs to look into the scores of unregistered borewells that are in place. Owners of private borewells should take the responsibility of shutting the borewell so that it does not prove to be a major disaster like the one that we are seeing at the moment. But truly a shocking incident there that has once again brought to light the ugly truth of these borewells and the kind of disaster that they can cause when they are abandoned and are just left unattended and unsecured. Well, government has now asked the panchayats to cover all the 3,400 dry borewells that come in their purview. But let's not forget that 3,500 is a very small number. Even in Bengaluru, majority of the borewells are not sanctioned. They are illegal. Similar is the case with it across the state. Many a times there is no geological survey that is conducted before the borewell is dug. Now we have the big news coming in. Camera finds a stone that is blocking the pathway at 148 feet. The stone is precariously placed above Timmanna. Rescue workers pull out the camera. This is the big news that is just coming in. Camera finds a stone blocking its path at 148 feet. The stone is precariously placed above Timmanna, and the rescue workers have pulled out the camera as there is a threat of them dislodging the stone that could hit Timmanna and could cause him some damage.